As you all know, in 2008, the state entered into this clean energy initiative with the Department of Energy. The DOE basically realized that there were some significant issues with respect to energy security here in Hawaii. Most of the fuel is being imported, if not actually all the fuel, and that represents about $7 billion, if my memory is correct, about $7 billion that's leaving the economy annually because of all this fuel that's being brought into the state. Should the supply get cut in some fashion, that could have some serious impacts in Hawaii. And so this initiative was started, and along the lines of that initiative, a cooperative agreement was signed with the local utility companies to really try to push forward on these notions of how do you bring more wind power into Maui. And Mayor Tavares, who's here in the audience, has been a big proponent of renewable energy for quite some time. So in December last year, we were lucky enough to be a company that got involved here in Maui County. We entered into a memorandum of understanding with Maui Electric Company. So we entered into discussions late last year with Ed Reinhardt and his team over at MECO. And basically we agreed upon the notion of how do we introduce vehicles into the island, how do we test them, how do we prove that they actually work as fleet vehicles, how do we also investigate some concepts related to renewable energy. You know, for instance, if you look at the battery packs that sit inside of our car, they actually utilize these cells that one of our investors, a company called AES Corporation. AES is a large independent power producer operating in 29 countries. And they were a big believer in taking these lithium batteries and essentially creating large energy storage units. Now, the way the electric power generation traditionally worked was you had these coal plants burning coal, generating electricity, but they had to keep the frequency of that electricity within a certain band. That's at 60 hertz in the US. In order to keep that electricity kind of fluid, they would typically have a generator powered by diesel sitting in the background, burning diesel 24 hours a day. The interesting thing is that AES experimented with this particular battery pack and found that it could actually be applied commercially for this energy storage concept and frequency regulation. And so taking that one step further, the interest that Phoenix has is how do we take that battery and then harness the energy inside of that battery and the energy storage capabilities and then have it multiplied and distributed over a number of different vehicles so that you can do vehicle to grid. That is, if wind power is being generated by companies like First Wind or Shell here in Maui, when the wind is blowing at night and no one's necessarily using electricity, if you have a lot of cars and battery packs, you could actually store that electricity. And when the cars are plugged in the morning, there's some sort of pre-negotiated deal or software that allows the customer to essentially adjust how much electricity am I willing to give back. Of course, if the electricity company pulls all of it back, you can't get home, so that's not going to work. But you know, you can adjust it so it's 5%, 10%. And clearly, since the car has about 100 miles range or more, losing 10% of the electricity in your car for the day is not going to kill you. So the notion there is that you could basically use these vehicles as battery packs. The benefit to the utility company is that it solves some of the headaches that certainly the utility company has here in Maui. One of the issues is that they would love to have a lot of battery packs, but right now they're just very expensive. And there's a chicken or egg thing going, especially in the auto industry, where you have a big company like GM saying to its battery vendors, build me a cheap battery, whereas the battery companies are saying, put in a big order. The same thing's happening with the utility companies. So there's a potential for these cars, as they go out into the marketplace, that they solve some of the headaches that Maui Electric Company has. That kind of opens up an interesting question, which is, can we do final assembly of vehicles here in Hawaii, here in Maui County, for the local marketplace? Because we think that the state of Hawaii is actually a great market opportunity for our company. Because if you look at the driving range of our vehicle, the typical ideal situation for that car, certainly any place that's an island is fantastic. Then if you look at the fact that for tourism applications, for construction applications, it's a great marketplace. So if we could also move the assembly here, then that's something that's definitely of interest to us as a company.